to enhance the capacity of community-based youths who run small businesses or have the intention to own and run sustainable enterprises. Target beneficiaries are youths living in densely populated slums and poor neighborhoods in Nigeria. Our overall goal is to reduce youth unemployment in Nigeria through capacity building in entrepreneurship. The CVL Young Entrepreneurship Training Program kicked off with a process of selection of participants. A call for application for participants is issued to the general public. Completed application forms are returned and shortlisted applicants are notified. First stage interview is conducted following screening of qualified candidates. Final interview is conducted to select final participants. Participants undergo 2 months entrepreneurship training, followed by 2 months business mentoring sessions. A graduation ceremony is organized to award certificates and startup kits/grants to successful participants. A 6 months technical support in terms of intensive monitoring and supervision is also provided after the graduation ceremony.
In the course of the program, I've been able to study where I want my business to run. And I've also been able to study bookkeeping, that is how to record the profit and loss I have in the business. And also in the course of the program, I've also been able to know how to market, how to communicate with people.
This program has really helped me a lot. I learned so much. I think I've been able to learn about more of marketing, budgeting, and accounting. With this, I've been empowered. I'm good to start up my own business.
This program, the CVL Young Entrepreneurship Training, I would say it's a very good program that has come to Ajegunle, and my prayer is that this comes to stay, because it's a very good program that has come to help several of us, and I can say that I am a living testimony, to which I pray that this continues, because it's going to help many people in Ajegunle and the nation as a whole.
CVL Young Entrepreneurship Training Program, it is a program that I would advise anybody that has the opportunity to partake in, because it has actually taken me from the unknown to the known. Some things that I actually took for granted, I actually saw how important it is supposed to be. What I'm supposed to do to make me a successful person.
The CVL Young Entrepreneurship Training Program is a great initiative. It has helped me to broaden my knowledge on the subject of entrepreneurship. Also, it has helped me to identify my hidden potential to be an outstanding entrepreneur. I've been able to understand the difference between an entrepreneur and a business person or a business owner. Also, I've been able to know how to be faithful to my bookkeeping and other, principles guiding an entrepreneur. I'm also going to say that it has helped me to be able to identify opportunity. It has also helped me to creatively gather resources in order for me to set up my enterprise.
And I think another reason to really look at this is an understanding that the development process is such that it is a partnership, a tripartite partnership between government, private sector, and social enterprise, non-state actors. Increasingly, given the weakness of government, non-state actors have to fill more the gap. And this is what CVL is trying to do by working in the Ajegunle area to empower young people.
I mentored 7. My experience quite interesting, stressful. At the end of the day, I was happy I was part of the mentors. Some are willing to learn, some know it all. They don't like listening. They are not just good listeners. And some are there to learn. Some are really ready to learn. Some go to the length of paying sacrifice so that the program can keep going on, that it's been stopping halfway. So that's my experience. And I enjoyed it in a little way because some of them give me the will, the drive to continue with them. Why some, you want to feel a lot of time, so pushing on. But when you see them around, Mama, what do you have for us? What is the next on the ground? So it gives me the drive to continue with them.
Now, Heritage Bank had decided to support this initiative. At the back of the bank's creed, we are generally poised to create wealth, preserve wealth, and transform. Now, this is one initiative that we're desirous of partnering, amongst others that we've done in several spheres and with several organizations. We've partnered with Nigerian Youth Service Corps in empowering young graduates who have just graduated. We've partnered in other schemes concerning development of businesses. Now, we've seen this initiative with CVL, right? And we've said, look, this brainchild of Professor Patutomi, we are interested in partnering. What it does is to show that even beyond government's intervention, private entities can support empowering our young youths. So we feel this is something that we can work with. It ties into our vision of growing businesses, transform them into entrepreneurs, and ensure that those businesses that have been grown and the values derived from it are preserved and even transferred beyond this current generation.
Well, I think the message that we should send out from here is that we can change the world. You know, many years ago, Margaret Mead made that powerful statement that we should not underestimate what a few thoughtful individuals can do to change the world. Because indeed, it's the only thing that really has changed the world. A few thoughtful individuals. We're hoping that the work that we do, the few, will change our world. Why don't you be one of those few? It can be changed in Nigeria writ large. It can be a better world. Rid of the violence of those who are angry with the system that has left them behind.
Watch out for the next edition of CVL Young Entrepreneurship Training Program. We may hit your community soon. For enquiries and more information, visit www.cvl.com.ng or contact Uchenna 234-803-583-2096. You Achunine at cvl.com.ng or James on 234-814-628-6645. J. Ebube at cvl.com.ng.
Well, the Widow Support Center actually really started about 1983. We formally date it to about 1991, 92, but it actually started about 1983. Now, here's a little bit of a history. As a graduate student in the US in the late 70s and early 80s, I was engaged in a lot of personal reflection about the purpose of being, the meaning of my humanity. I came to a conclusion fairly early, and that's my good fortune in many ways. I said to myself, what's the value of being? What is success? What is achieving? I think one of the biggest challenges in life is that many people don't early in their lives ask that question. And so what tends to happen is that we pursue everything that everybody else is doing and want to be better than our neighbor. For me, I had the good fortune of, as early as age 20, 21, beginning to examine myself as to what should I consider important in life. And I came to the conclusion that achievement, a sense of fulfillment, comes from what I call impact. How do you impact your environment, whatever it is, the space that you've chosen, whether it's this or that big? How many people will their lives have been significantly affected because their paths cross your path?
Women deserve the gratitude of all. In remaining our social glue, the craftsperson of the values that sustains the future and tapestry upon which their children walk to greater economic freedom. The future of Nigeria depends significantly on how well we invest in the education, healthcare, entrepreneurship capacity of women who are carrying an increasing financial burden of raising their children.
And so when I came back to Nigeria towards the latter.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here at the 51st Leader Without Title Tribute Series. We are very grateful for your presence, for those in person and for those online. Today is a particularly special occasion because we are honoring 3 women. So this means a lot to me in particular because women like these are the ones who kind of set the stage for those of us coming afterwards, those of us who are in unusual fields for women, as it were. And so we are very grateful for the path they have blazed. So I would like to welcome them to come on stage. Princess Adenike Adeniran. Welcome. Thank you so much. Dr. Oluremi Aribisala. I think she's online. If you could let me know when she's in there. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ma. We'd also like to welcome Hajia Dr. Aisha Abdurrahman. Thank you so much for your presence. So the theme of this LWT is breaking the glass ceiling for pioneer women. And in this session, we'll be discussing the life lessons, the experiences of these women who have made notable strides in their field. From accounting to petroleum, business, they've definitely changed the landscape, especially for women in the Nigerian economy. So we are grateful for their presence and are looking forward to hearing what they have to say. Thank you very much.
Very dear honorees, 2 of who are seated to my right and to my left, and I'm blessed amongst women. Yeah, I know that this man, this Mr. Ijewere, is envious. Eat your heart. And we have joining us from the United States online, Dr. Remi Aribisala. But also very importantly, our panelists, quite a few of them are online, all traveling from somewhere. I could see Ms. Ndidi Muneli, Mrs. Bola Adeshola. I could see Mrs. Animumuni. They're all online there. But I just want to check just to be sure I'm not... Mr. Ijewere is here. Please bring him up. Let him enjoy what I'm enjoying. So that his Ojukokoro can be managed. Thank you so very much. I think the appropriate thing to do, following through the program, which we will all have in one quick minute, would be for me to say a word of welcome before we go to, and why we do what it is we are doing. Again, greeting to our special guests, honorees. About 11 years ago, the Center for Values in Leadership, recognizing that its primary goal was to socialize a generation of Nigerians into what it means to truly be a leader, thought up one more program to use to show example to younger people what leadership is about. And one of those programs we call the Leader Without Title Tribute Series, because we drew significantly from a Canadian called Robin Sharma, who wrote a truly interesting book titled The Leader Who Had No Title, in which he tried to focus on the fact that many times we are obsessed with titles: chairman, managing director, governor, president, and so on and so forth. Yet some people who make impacts that change the world don't even have any flash of a title. And so the series that we created, we call the Leader Without Title Tribute Series. Now, what we do as part of that process is to take the persons that we are recognizing for their impact, for the contribution of their time, and take something in their career that we then get an outstanding panel of discussants to have a conversation around, so that we provide learning at more than one level. At one level, we provide learning from the example of the lives of those we honor, so that the young people who see them can take away something from the lives that they are led up to that point. The second learning comes from the colloquium, the conversation that we have around the lives of these people. And that conversation is usually very rich and very robust, and we try and get usually the best associated with that person to be participants, or not associated necessarily directly, but associated with that area to be involved in this conversation. We have so far honored some of our country's finest in this series, from Mr. Kintola Williams, Dr. Molai Ole, Arthur Mbanefo, Chief Gumbanjo, Alhaji Ahmed Joda, Asiodu, and so on and so forth. We've also honored amongst these some very outstanding women. Among them, Professor Grace Lily Williams, the now late Mrs. Tonyo Lakurin, the Professor Mrs. Elebute, Mrs. Folake Shulanke, ACN, and quite a number of women. But we have been taking stock in our country, and a number of things worry us. Our country is not making progress with gender inclusion. If you go to Rwanda, you will see that 50% of their parliament are women. Several of their ministers, very significant number, are women. There is a particular young woman who's their Minister of Industries. Because I travel around this continent and I'm on these panels, and I just keep running to her everywhere. And she's smart, she's beautiful, but I can give you 1,000 women smarter than her, more beautiful than her in Nigeria. And so I wonder, why is it I keep running to this young woman and they keep bringing her onto, oh, honorable minister or minister. And I say, I can give you 20,000 of these. So something is wrong with what has happened in our country, and we need to begin to reverse it. Because of this, we have chosen to focus the LWT on what we call the women who have broken the glass ceiling. To be able to illustrate with their contribution the fact that we have women who can, and we must change policy. We must change attitude so that we do not play with less than our full strength. I sit on the board of one or two South African companies, and public policy is so strong there that, you know, I mean, the board now has a woman as chair, and they must get the participation of women on the board to, yes, oh, let's share this here. So, by the way, let me pause. I didn't realize that one of our panelists had come in. Somebody who, in her own right, has broken that glass ceiling. The president of ICANN, Mrs. Joy Onome Adewi. Please. Okay, yes, please. Yes. I had not noticed that she was here. Please, you can sit near that other accountant that we are allowed to come here. You know. There's no chair. Okay, it's from there. Oh, can somebody move the chair there to that place? So that I can have peace from Mr. Jewelry. You're welcome. And so it was important for us in beginning this series of focusing on the women who hit that glass ceiling and shattered it, that we take on some very, very strong issues that are impeding the progress of women towards the positions of importance that can truly make a difference in our country and take us to the next level, as we like to say in Nigeria. And we have today, to help us in that discussion, to my right, the man amongst women, Mr. Emmanuel Ijewere. No, not yet. And then to my further right, who the lady I've just introduced, current president of ICANN, Mrs. Joy Onome Adewi. We have online Mrs. Bola Adeshola. And we also have online Mrs. Ndidi Muneli. I saw her earlier, that's her there. And Mrs. Animumuni. I think I saw her earlier too. Okay. So this really is our panel, and we're going to get started. Can the MC nudge us on to the next track before we begin the conversation proper? Let me, while that is going on, say that central for me in this conversation, an issue that I am very deeply interested in, and for which we have hired and are hiring more young women researchers. They don't have to be women, but we started with women. And we'll produce some books out of this whole series. Why it is, and it's a very strange phenomenon that has developed in Nigeria, that when you go to graduations, the best are usually the girls. I mean, somebody put it very dramatically to me. The person came from a graduation ceremony. First class, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all women. They go to second class, upper, they call it. And then they finally call one young man and everybody just goes, hey! A man has entered the list. Blasphemy. But 5, 6, 7 years down the line, those second class, lower and third class boys are making waves, and we don't see those first class girls. Why? What are the cultural factors that are getting in the way? And I think that interrogating those questions are important for our country if we're going to make a good, truly make impact in our country that will make us move forward. Next up, we're supposed to introduce, I guess formally, the honorees and panelists. I do not know if my introduction is accepted or if a traditional way of introducing our honorees electronically will be okay, will be the path that we travel. So permit me therefore to just kick right into the colloquium proper. And I'm going to give Mr. Ijewere the pride of place as the man on the panel to draw first blood. I'm going to ask him how a country performs if 1/2 of its population it suboptimizes on, and why it is that a country can actually continue to neglect, noting that it puts itself at a disadvantage relative to those who use 100% of their talent stock by not doing enough to ensure inclusion in its leadership at all levels. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Pat. The special ladies we are honoring here today, thanks for the privilege of talking to all of you. Something happened yesterday. We had a committee meeting. I'm a director of of a bank, and part of the discussion was staff attrition. And the question was asked by a director, of all those who have been changing jobs, what percentage of them are male and what percentage are female? The MD said, in actual fact, they've just discovered that only about 10% of them are female. The rest are male. And we said, the females we have there are doing so well, holding their own, and in some cases better than the men. Why don't we now use this opportunity to carry out the central bank's own policy of increasing the gender balance? And we took a decision that the next top recruitments must be 90% female. And when I was coming here this morning, I reflected on what's happening here today. I have been to many of these CVL's activities, and God bless you, Pat, for your doggedness of continuing this whole idea of leadership without title. The three of them, each of them is a shining example that everybody will be proud of. And it fits to the question you said, a country that does not take advantage of all its populace or deliberately discriminatory against a particular gender, what will happen to it? It will fail. But nature has a way of adjusting itself. The example I gave of this bank is a good one. What CVL is doing is another good example. And a number of other things are happening. I'm glad that we have here today a past president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, Princess Adeniro. And we were in Abuja last week for the annual conference. What was quite interesting was that the top people in the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, I think we have 65,000 members now. The president is a lady, and I have the privilege of sitting next to her here. The vice president is a lady. Now you have body of past presidents. And the current chairman of the body of past president is a lady. There she is there. And the conference director that was able to put together in a pandemic over 4,800 people was a lady. My answer to you is that things are beginning to change. The glass ceiling is already broken. The ladies are now climbing through it and making themselves, asserting their presence. And I think we are beginning to see changes now. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you gave the example of the board of the bank on which you sit, because it was my favorite example for many, many, many years. About 20 years or more ago, I used to raise these issues. And I used to make the point that some of the best bankers in the country were women. And the reason was simple. It's not just a matter of gray matter, it's cultural. When banking was booming and expanding, the men who were under greater social pressure to reach the top and would jump from one bank to another. Every 6 months, they will get a promotion in a new bank, and suddenly they're general managers and they don't know anything about banking. And I used to specifically say, one of the best treasurers in the country at the time was Funke Oshibodu. And the reason was Funke sat in Citibank and learned banking while her peers were jumping all over the place trying to become MD within 5 years. And so that created a certain, repository of capacity in women in banking. Having said that, it's only until recently we started seeing women MDs in banks. I mean, Funke herself became in Union Bank. Now we have at Fidelity a new woman MD. But given the competence that women have shown in banking, more than 60% of the MDs in banking should be women. Well, I don't know if this is an appropriate point to bring in Mrs. Bola Adeshola, who herself was one of those women who have served as MDs of banks, to say, what is it exactly that is responsible, in spite of the fact that competencies can be seen as significantly domiciled in women, yet much fewer women are in that executive lead position than should be the case. Mrs. Adeshola.
Thank you very much, Dr. Toby, and good morning to all the distinguished honorees and the panelists as well. Thank you for inviting me to this event. Well, you know, the issue goes back to, I think, a mindset one, cultural issues, and unconscious bias. I'm sure many of us know that at the entry level into the banking sector, when fresh graduates come in, usually it's about a 50-50 ratio. And then all of a sudden you have, you know, this sort of pyramid or funnel, in inverted funnel, where either women, due to personal circumstances, leave their jobs. And so you have fewer women who are available for those roles. So there's that sort of natural, you know, weeding, and some of this is societal pressure and so on and so forth. Young women get married, they feel they have to, you know, be at home and so on. You also then have the unconscious bias within the systems, where if a woman, for example, goes on maternity leave for 3 months, it is assumed that she's only worked for 9 months, even though her output may actually be 150% of somebody who's been physically present, you know, for 100% of the time. Some of the, I think, factors militating against, you know, having more women at the top, at least in the past, were also, I think, the women as well. You know, when roles come up, you find that men quickly put up their hands, you know, for these roles. With women, they have a lot of things they consider, you know, how would it seem, you know, my husband has been posted to Abuja, you know, should I take on additional responsibility and so on. However, I think we got a breakthrough many years ago during the tenure of His Royal Highness Sanusi, when he was the CBN governor, and I was chairing the subcommittee on gender at that time, when the central bank decided that, you know, through moral suasion, though not direct regulation, that banks should aim for 30% female on boards and 40% in senior management. When I mean, I still recall very, very vividly the meeting when Sanusi announced this, and the reaction of I think I was probably the only female CEO at that time, the reaction of the male MDs. And, you know, one of them, I still remember so clearly, said something like, oh, no, well, we have no objection. You know, after all, my wife worked at a time, and then after a while, I pulled her out of work. And, you know, when you have that type of language, you know, then you find that it will be manifest within the organization in terms of the bias against women. But, you know, rounding up, the second thing that was also done was that banks were required to disclose the gender diversity statistics. And, you know, as we say, what doesn't get measured doesn't get done. So the disclosure forced banks to begin to think about this. The third thing was, I recall also another bank CEO said on the day, where are the women? If you're saying we should put women on boards. And sort of on a personal basis, I'm one of the co-founders of Women in Management, Business and Public Service, WIMBASE. We actually also, you know, have an initiative called WIMBoard. So it's that, well, let us present the board-ready women who can, you know, fill that, increase the bench strength, and also find ways of helping organizations create women's networks that will facilitate more and more women being retained in the banking industry. So, and I think a valid point is what you also said about, you know, the depth of knowledge and understanding of, by women, because we're fairly stable. I mean, most of us stay in our roles for 8, 9, 10 or more years, whereas many of our contemporaries today own banks, so they have the money, but they may not have that depth of experience. But things have improved significantly, I must say, over the last 15, 20 years, and it's a journey. We're on it, we've started, and momentum is increasing. So I think it's looking good long term.
Maybe we can get a perspective from you of active professionals who are women in banking, and how maybe peer facilitation, are there any systems in place? How do you encourage, how do you mentor women in the industry? I know that we see WIMBI's activities, we see a number of activities, but how do women get mentored to provide that, self-confidence? Because sometimes that's all it really takes. And people don't think, well, they won't agree because it's me, I'm a woman. How do you mentor Okay. To those who are online, I know the system kicks back in. Maybe I can turn to the ICANN president at this point, even though we're still in the banking. But they hear me. Oh, the backup is working. So, Mrs. Animumuni, you can hear me. Okay,
yes,
all right. Please go ahead then. All right. Okay, lovely.
So good morning to our honorees, and to say congratulations. It's great to see role models such as yourselves being honored. And I must say thank you very much to Professor Pat and CVL for this. I think it's really important that we demonstrate the power of role modeling through sessions such as this. How do we ensure that, and following on from what my sister, Mrs. Adeshola said and said so eloquently, how do we ensure that we have enough women in the pipeline? How do we mentor the women? I think it starts really with a deliberate and intentional decision made by either the institutions or the organizations. And if we listen to what Professor Ijewere said, I mean, I think we must give them a clap for that. A whole 90% in terms of new recruits. I think that would be great. So it really starts from the hiring process right through to ensuring that we have supportive policies, supportive initiatives in place within the organization. Within banking in particular, and I speak for a bank that I work for, one of the oldest and the largest banks in Nigeria at the moment. What we do is we ensure that, giving the natural and the unconscious biases that Mr. Adeshola had mentioned earlier on, we have specific programs in place that ensure that we support the women who have consciously by themselves already decided that they intend to go for this career and to go all the way to the top. And I mentioned that because I think it also must start with us women. You know, you must have the courage of your convictions to say that this is the career I want for myself. And you must have the courage to also speak up within the organization such that when we see situations or when we see areas by which the organization can say, you know what, we need to look at this, we need to look at creches, for example, for women who choose to have it all, who choose to have the family and who choose to have the career. When we look at things like mobility, because mobility being one of those areas that tends to hinder women along the path. So we all come in at the entry level and you find that, yes, you know, women coming equally at the entry level are doing quite well. But we recognize that along the journey, along the path, there's so many different things that crops up that then hinders them. So it's ensuring that as an organization, we have a clear leadership. And you know, the role of leadership in this is so very important. Where you have leadership that is determined to support and to ensure that the women can succeed, we find, and the research shows that in those organizations, they tend to succeed, and the outcomes are always better. Indeed, you cannot have a nation, you cannot have a world where we're only operating at half our potential. Women bring a certain diversity and a different viewpoint that means that the outcomes ultimately are much better. We have seen that where we support the women to succeed, what tends to happen is that there's a strong economic case. There's a strong business case for the outcomes that you see. So giving that, having, for example, a women's network within the organization that really breaks down the issues and chooses to address the issues a step at a time means that there are chances for success. In First Bank, for example, we have what we call the First Women's Network. And what that does is we're able to say, let's break this down into about 5 or 6 different pillars in terms of supporting the women, mentoring the women, what are the career aspirations they have, what's holding them back, what are the roles, how do we develop the pipeline? Developing that pipeline is really critical. You do not want to then look around and say, well, okay, where are the women? Even if we say by policy, given the example that Mrs. Adeshola gave earlier on, where the central bank mandated a certain percentage. But if you look around and we don't find the women, then we will continue to have the situation that we currently have. So we're very deliberate and intentional about saying, have a clear program internally, but also by partnering with the global networks. There's no point reinventing the wheel. We have organizations who have done it and done it really well. Mrs. Adeshola, I know, sits on some of the UN bodies, for example. There's the UN Women, there's the Global Compacts. These are all global and international organizations that support the journey that we're on. But ultimately, it is a journey, and it's a journey that requires us all being deliberate and intentional so that we can have the best outcomes, which we know are only possible if we have a full participation of women across all organizations, not just within banking. If you take nation building, if you take politics, for example, I mean, the statistics are shocking to say that it's what, 7%, 25% of women around the world are parliamentarians. Then how do we make the right policies for women? Interesting that during this COVID period, the statistics showed that a number of the nations that had women as leaders seem to fare better. So that for me is the business case that says that we do need to take this very seriously. And we really, honestly, 25 years after the Beijing Accord, we really honestly do not have much time left. The imperative to do it and to do it now is now. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. I'd like to turn to Ndidi Nguneli. Ndidi has had quite a track in advocacy in different areas. And I'd like Ndidi to put her mind to advocacy and to say what has not been done right in terms of advocacy for women to be able to have greater levels of inclusion and leadership positions in both the private and public sectors in Nigeria.
Thank you so much, Professor Tommy, and thank you to CVL. I'm a big fan and friend of CVL, and congratulations to the honorees. It's truly a pleasure to engage with all of you, and to my dynamic sisters and brother on the panel, I salute you for your good work. So to just dive in, Professor Tommy, the issues that we face in Nigeria is that we have really weakened civil society, and you and I know that they've been almost concerted effort to weaken civil society in Nigeria, which has invariably weakened advocacy campaigns locally, within states, and across the nation. And when we think about some of the issues around gender mainstreaming, I would even suggest that we've regressed as a nation in the last few years. I recently was excited to see WIMBIZ take this policy up because I think recently the government just appointed commissioners and executives for all the top universities in Nigeria, and I don't think there was one woman. I stand to be corrected. And so I was excited to see WIMBIZ taking up this agenda and writing an article in the press and calling out this huge glaring problem. But we see this repeatedly over and over again, where there are appointments at the national level, at the state level, to boards, to federal organizations and agencies, and there's not one woman represented. So I strongly believe that we need clear quotas. Rwanda has done it with a 50% quota. Most countries now have at least the 30% quota at the federal level with appointments. Nigeria needs to have explicit quotas. If we don't have explicit quotas, we're going to continue to see the lack of balance and the gender gaps that exist. As many of you know, I work in the agriculture and food landscape. And earlier this year, the World Bank released some results, two glaring results that really made me very upset. One, that female farmers generate 30% less than their male counterparts in terms of yields and output, linked to their inability to have access to high quality land, inputs, training. We even see that with extension workers. So 30% less in terms of output because of the discrimination and the gaps. The second statistic was that female entrepreneurs generate 60% less profits than their male counterparts. And you link this to huge, huge barriers from a policy dimension in terms of access to financing, access to training and support, access to markets, market linkages, and logistics and support. And this is in the ag and food landscape, but this same statistic is evident in many other sectors. And if we don't close this gender gap, it has an impact not only on our economy as a nation, but also on our livelihoods. And we see the gender gaps really, really affecting not only GDP growth, but also the statistics around infant mortality, maternal mortality, malnutrition, because a woman feeds her home. And if she's suffering and she's vulnerable, her children suffer as well. So I think it makes economic sense for us to address this at a national level. We need to have the data. The data is critical to ensure that we can amplify these issues. And that's why the World Bank data I just shared is so meaningful. But if we have data on every sector, it will amplify our voices and strengthen our mandates. Secondly, we need to strengthen civil society, and we need more collaboration amongst all the women groups, both in the corporate landscape like the WIMBIs and the Whiskers of this world, but also linking more with grassroots female organizations to ensure that we're speaking with one voice and there's a united, concerted effort. And thirdly, we need funding. These civil society organizations need funding to speak out, to fund women to enter the political race, to support women in their campaigns, to hold governments accountable, and to ensure gender mainstreaming. And then the last thing I'll say is that we need to revamp our Ministry of Women Affairs. I really think it's time we rethink how gender is mainstreamed in every single agency of government, and not just having a token agency that is not really empowered to make the right type of interventions in the sector. I think gender is critical in every dimension. And if we are satisfied with a ministry and say, oh, after all, we have a Ministry of Women Affairs or commissioners of women affairs, we're not going to hit the nail on the head, and we'll continue to have the inequities in our society. So there's a sense of urgency, and I look forward to working with some of you to see how we can pull this forward.
I think that you actually nailed the matter there. And the point that you make, which I take very much, is that we've regressed. Nigeria has actually regressed. Instead of moving forward, our country has been referred to as a recursive economy. 2 steps forward, 4 steps backwards. And in one of the areas that we have truly regressed is in gender mainstreaming that Ndidi has raised here. But I think that the niggling point for me is whoever they are that make these choices, does it somehow not occur to them that we're shooting ourselves in the foot? Whether we are men or women, net, our society is worse off when we don't get the best of our talent pool playing. And I'd like to move towards professional bodies and what they do around this turn into the ICANN president. I know ICANN is one of those areas, or accounting is one of those areas where I see women have consistently made progress. At least you see a lot more women accountants, but how have professional bodies like ICANN engaged this subject to ensure that really we have inclusion in decision-making bodies, private or public, so that our country can get optimum outcomes from these positions?
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It's not noon yet. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Let me begin by appreciating the organizers of this colloquium for inviting me to come and share my thoughts or contribute. Sitting here is really a thing of joy for me because I see great men and women that have impacted my life very positively. Princess Agnes Adeniran, everybody call her my mother in the accounting profession. She's a past president of ICANN. Chief Mrs. Elizabeth Umerisan Adegite, she's here with us. She's a past president of ICANN. This woman singularly reshaped my life, and I will share with you if I have the time. And we have Ijewere. Chief Ijewere is like a father to me. And he's one person that has given women opportunity all the way in life. When he was the president of ICANN, the chairman of his conference was a woman, conference director was a woman, and they picked me from nowhere to serve in that committee. I must say that Nigeria as a country, let me say that we have not really done enough. I just want to share 3 short stories of my experiences that will maybe help convince us, and then I can give 1 or 2 things I think we should do that will help our situation. First, about 2019, I was privileged to attend a board meeting in Rwanda on an accounting project. And I was stunned at what I saw. And I felt really, really challenged coming from that trip. What happened was, we got to that institute in Rwanda, we're going to have a meeting. And there was this lady, she was a director in charge of governance who was supposed to organize that meeting for us. But the previous day, she was appointed, not elected, she was appointed a senator to represent her senatorial zone. So I was inquisitive. I said, how did this young lady win an election and became a senator in this country? So I made my inquisitive nature, I asked the questions. Okay, let's say hello to her. She came to actually say goodbye to us because she was going to be sworn in the next day. And I engaged the registrar of the institute, and he said, no, that in their country, in Rwanda, that there is a legislation that says that for the House, the lawmakers, 66 2/3, that there's a current legislation must be women. And after the elections, if they don't make that number, the government has the power to go in there and fish out people who have the requisite knowledge and experiences who are women to fill their slots. So this young lady, she's an accountant, a chartered accountant who was working in the institute, and they came and picked her to represent her area as a senator. I want you to compare it with what happens in our country, Nigeria. How are our legislators picked? Would I, sitting here, that don't have the kind of money that they need to do the election, ever get into the Senate? The answer is a big no. And I think it's a big lesson for us in Nigeria. If we want to really move up, truly, legislation is where we have to go. All this noise we are making, if we don't consciously accept it, that we need to put something in front to help the women, then we are going nowhere. That is one story I needed to share. And again, I was told that in Rwanda, if you divorce your wife, you give everything you have to the woman. Everything. It's true. If you divorce your wife in Rwanda, you are going to walk away with just the shirt you are wearing. And so because of that, every man is walking hand in hand with his wife to make sure that they keep a home together. I hope I'm making a point. In that same Rwanda, when we went to visit the rural areas, we saw men backing children on their back. And we asked, why is this man doing this? And he said, oh, in Rwanda, if a man and a woman have to get employed, and the decision is there's nobody to look after the child at home, the man has to wait for the woman to go and work. I'm sharing with you how these things can happen. Do you understand? So the men stay back and the women go to work because they believe that the women have a lot to give. And you know the story, the success story of Rwanda today is not a secret, it's everywhere. And the leadership of that country is proud to do this because he believes that that is what is going to take his country to where he desires his country to go to. That's the story of Rwanda. Contrast it with Nigeria. How can we in Nigeria get this kind of things to happen? I'm sure this kind of gathering is one of those things we need to continue to do to make happen. I want to share a second story. Recently at the Institute, we took a decision. We're trying to set up something, and we decided that we're going to have a board of trustees. So we looked at very senior people in the Institute, and we picked a chairman. I'm a female president, but sitting on that Institute chair today, basically every chartered accountant is an intelligent person. So technical competence is given because if you are carrying any certificate as an accountant, we believe that you are an intelligent person. You can do whatever job you are given to. So the only thing that sitting here I was looking at was geographical representation. And we try to balance that so that the 6 geographical regions are represented on this board. So we picked a gentleman and said, this guy is a good fit to be the chairman of this board of trustees. And I happily went to him and said, look, I have this proposal from the Institute. I would like you to do this for others. And when I finished speaking, he said, oh, thank you very much. Please tell me the composition of the board. And I was happy. I quickly said, oh, good geographical representation. He kept quiet. He was listening to me. And I reeled out the name. And he now said, Onome, listen, I am sorry. I will never, ever serve on that board if you don't have equal gender representation. I was shocked. And I said, oh, we have 2 women. He said, 2 women out of 13 board members is not in for me. I said, but where can we find it? He said, you are asking me, and you are the president of ICANN, when all the great women out there are chartered accountants. He said, go back and sort yourself out. I will only join this board if you have 6 male, 6 female, and I don't mind, the chairman could be a male or a female, but there must be equal gender representation. You are a woman, you should be the one pushing this, not me. And I felt so ashamed of myself because I was just looking at competence and geographical representation. My dear colleagues, please, let us all put it in the forefront. And thereafter, we went to speak to one of the geographical and say, look, we needed to drop somebody to get a woman. You know what this gentleman said? A woman cannot represent us on the board. That is another mindset. A woman cannot represent us on this board because we have a right. Since you say it's for a geographical region, we don't want a woman to represent us. That is his own mindset. And this is another man saying that if you don't have 6 men and 6 women, he will not do the job. Now, even several years ago, I was a young lady, my son, 7-year-old son, we went for a family meeting. And then they came to my unit. And they said I could not speak because I was a woman. And they said, okay, who else did I call? I came with my 3 children, 2 girls and 1 boy. He said, I said, no, the boy is the younger. I said, well, he's the one that is going to stand in front, sit here and represent us. That's the cultural values that we have been used to all this while. It is not going to be an easy thing to make that reversal. But this kind of organizations, what we are doing today really, really is what will help us get there. There's no doubt a career woman has a lot of challenges. She has to contend with the husband in the house. She has to contend with the children, raising the children, and she has to contend with the job. The gentleman just goes to work, comes home, wants his food. He doesn't know what's happening in the kitchen. He doesn't know. I mean, it's just lately that we are consciously getting men to get involved with the children. And if you look at, take the history and the records, you find out that it's a lot of effort for the career women to put their children together. Because if you want to pursue a career in today's Nigeria, something have to give. But that is where we all come in. We must have a way to support the woman, because God has created us to have all of these capabilities. One, you'll be able to look after your home front. The fact that you're a professional doesn't mean you can't keep your husband and children together. It is no excuse that because you have a career, you cannot deal with the home. I listened to Funke Oshubodo some time ago in a speech when she was speaking. She came to give a talk to the women. I think it's Swan Ladies. And she specifically said that if you want to keep this career in this competitive world, some things have to give. But not give in the negative tense. You have to put on your thinking cap and see how you can work things out for yourselves. And she shared her own experiences with us, the way she deals with the support back home. And she was happy to say that she's been able to manage both the home front and the corporate front. Another counsel I want to give to us, our male colleagues, we must stand in the gap for our wives when they are out there doing the job. We are not in competition with the men. I drew that experience from the likes of Mrs. Olakuri, Princess Adenira, and Mrs. Adigite. They set up a body called the Society of Women Accountants of Nigeria, SWAN. SWAN is a formidable force in the Institute of Chartered Accountants today. All the brightest and the best female accountants are active in SWAN. And they tell you up front, SWAN is not in competition with the male colleagues. They are there as collaborators. They are there to support the male. They are there to give their best to the profession. And that SWAN has raised strong women in the profession who have kept their home front together, and they are role models to us today. So what am I saying to our male colleagues? They must also step back and see how they can encourage their wives and their daughters to recognize the fact that everybody in this country has equal opportunity to rise to their peak, and not deny your wife, or you see her as she's in competition, or you see her like she's outshining you. It's not going to work if we have that mindset. Our mothers, our sons, let us educate these boys. Let them know that it doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, everybody has equal roles to play. Yes, by nature, women have their roles to play as housewives in the house. Men have their roles to play as husbands. But that is not to take away the fact that the best of the lot should be brought to the fore to help this country. Look at what happened during the COVID. All the countries that were run by women did very well. We can't take that out. That is the truth. This is statistics that have been put out for all of us to see. So what does that tell us? In Nigeria, where we have about equal men and women in terms of number, why would you not set up a board and you have just one woman there? You know, I was looking, when this gentleman asked that we should go look for women that can contribute to this, I went to the internet and I just went to a bank and I looked at the composition. Only one woman was there. And she came by the virtue of the fact that she was the company secretary and she was now put on as a director on the board. Do you understand? Every other person on that board were men. So I was happy when Dr. Ijewere is now telling us that boards of banks are now saying that more women should come in. Indeed, when you start the career, because I did the majority of my life, I spent in the bank. When you start in the career, the women are many, but as you go up, they will be dropping. And for reasons beyond that control, society has created in such a way that you are likely to drop along the line to get to the top as a woman, except if God's grace is on your side and you have a very understanding husband and family that you come from that can give you the support that you need to get to the top. You might know everything, you might be the best, but if you get to man, your husband says you can't continue, you have to choose between the home and the career. Most women, pressure from parents will say, keep your home and leave the career for the men to go ahead and do with it. So that is my counsel to everybody here today. Let us begin to rethink how we see the contribution of our wives and how we relate to our daughters and our sons. It starts from the family unit. When you begin to let a man believe that he's better than the daughter, the boy is better than the daughter, in the way you do things, they will grow up with that mindset. And if they see that is what you do as a father, that is what they will take away to set their home. But if you begin to let them recognize the fact that you are my children, it doesn't matter whether you're a boy or a girl, you have equal opportunity. You came from the same womb, from the same father. So you should be able to do your best everywhere you are and let the best come out. My advice to the women also, don't let us sit back and say because we are being given opportunity, we will not do what we are supposed to do. We must make sure that whatever it is that is due to us, we have earned it. And I can tell you for free, if you put a woman and a man to compete under the same conditions, they will do very well equally. No woman wants to sit back and say, give me a position because I'm a woman. Several years ago, late Mrs. Olubi was speaking to us in a Swan session, and she said to us that, don't say that because I'm a woman, give me a lower job. Because that assistant manager that you are, when the payroll comes out, you earn the same pay. Are you with me? Even though in Rwanda, the women earn more than the men today, that is what they want and is working for them. But I am not even an advocate for that. I'm saying that let everybody have equal opportunity to compete, put them under the same position and let this work. In ICANN, to come back to the Institute, I think Swan has done a fantastic job in trying to give women opportunity and a voice. And who was the initiator of the Society of Women Accountants of Nigeria? She's the one sitting there today. Many, many years ago, Swan is over 40 now, and we are still together. You know, because they say, oh, if you put women together, they will quarrel, they will fight. But Swan is still getting stronger and stronger, and they are making their impact in the accounting profession. So my counsel to everybody is, it has to start from the grassroots. It has to start from the unit, the family home, and it has to continue that way for everybody to recognize the fact that it doesn't matter whether it's a girl child, it doesn't matter whether it's a boy child. Let us begin to give everybody equal opportunities. There was one MTN advert when they said it's the boy and everybody was shouting. I think people condemned that advert and they immediately dropped it. There's nothing special about a boy. There's nothing special about a girl. Everybody have their God-given talent. Let us give everybody opportunity to rise to the day. Let me stop here so that other people can contribute. Thank you very much, my dear.
Thank you so very much. It really gets to the heart of the matter. And it's about leadership. Leadership in the home, leadership in the country, leadership in the company. Because it's the leaders that set the tone. I'm glad my daughter is here. In my home, it's the same, as I said, when the IOD women invited me on a panel like this a couple of years ago. It's the same school fees I paid, $70,000, $80,000 for each child. So why should they come back and one is able to do much better than the other? It is not right. It is not fair. So I think that parents have a duty to set the tone at home. Leaders, political leaders, have the obligation to do the same for the whole country. And corporate leaders have the same duty in companies. I like the example of the man carrying the baby in Rwanda because it's a case study I used to teach many years ago of a couple who had to decide if they had to have a baby, somebody had to stay home. Who would stay home? An American couple. And their decision was a very simple, honest, straightforward one. They were both professionals, both working. They agreed that the person who earns more should continue working. And the one who earns less should stay at home and look after the home. At the time, it turned out that the woman was earning more. So the gentleman sat back at home to look after the home while she was working. As it turned out, because he was at home, had a little more time, he also had a few problems. He was carrying the baby, fixing things. At the same time, it was discomfort. In the process, he invented something that allowed you to carry a baby, gave you room to then and be doing things. And the thing went to the market and it was a blow away, and he became the one making more money. He said, okay, you go back to work. So you see how these things can actually work out. But in terms of how we institutionalize systems and processes, I want to return to, I hope she's hearing me with this power going back and forth. If Mr. Adeshola is still hearing me, I want to return to her, to look at affirmative action, formal decision that says 30% on this board must be women. Whatever happens, find them. There are enough qualified women. There are people who complain that in our country we have had things like the kind of affirmative action we have had has led more to nepotism than really bringing about a federal character. Because if we look, we'll find from the same places where we're getting nincompoops, people who are capable. But because we say affirmative action, you go and get some incompetent and use the name of affirmative action to bring the person in. So what is the disposition to the use of affirmative action? Like in Rwanda, 50% of this board must be female. And the South Africans are dealing with that right now. How do you see that working in a country like Nigeria, where we've had a lot of frustration with the way that we have implemented federal character, which has led more to cronyism than to actual ensuring of diversity? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Okay, please. All right, lovely, please.
As well. Thank you very much, Dr. Toby, for this. You know, you asked the question and then you said, well, you know, in a country where, you know, cronyism, nepotism, and so on, I don't think that we should throw away the baby with the bathwater. I believe that just because we are in a peculiar sort of situation where indeed you may have you know, affirmative action being implemented with women who are not qualified for the role, you know, square peg and round hole and so on and so forth, doesn't mean we shouldn't. What I believe should happen is, and, you know, echoing some of what Ndidi said, is that, you know, women's organizations, civil society, and so on, should ensure that they work towards providing the, you know, and if it's a public sector, providing the state with women who are role ready, sponsoring and supporting women into the political space, to take an interest in the political space, because indeed, in a country like Nigeria, it will probably be populated by female politicians who may not necessarily be the best for the role, but who are being rewarded with these roles just because they played, you know, some part in an election process. So I think that affirmative action will definitely accelerate, you know, having more women in roles both in the public and the private sector. Whether Nigeria is ready for it or not, you know, doesn't mean that it's not something that can be tested. It can be tested at state level, if not necessarily, say, state cabinet, maybe, you know, parastatals at state level, and see how that works. But the key thing is, where are the women? Who is going to help the women improve their competency, whether it's through governance, you know, training, and so on and so forth, such that by the time they are in those roles, you know, the biases against them, you know, will just wane, and these women will actually perform. There's also, you know, apart from affirmative action, what happened in the banking sector was more moral suasion. So it was not that you will be penalized if you didn't. But you found that by ensuring there was diversity, it was good for your brand. You know, and, you know, there's studies that have shown that, you know, companies, for example, that have more women are more profitable, and we begin to see increased productivity. So I believe that, and this government actually said it when they were coming in 2015, about, you know, ensuring that there will be, I can't remember what percentage it was, more women in roles. But again, the political system takes over and we forget about these things. I believe that the legislature, and I think the senator, Mrs. Olujimi, I think had sponsored a bill which included, you know, parts of it included affirmative action for a certain percentage of women in certain positions. And I think it's something that, you know, certainly is what, you know, is one of the things that WIMBIZ is looking at. How can we, through advocacy, increase the number of women? It should happen naturally, you know, in a society that values diversity and doesn't just want to use 50% of its population. But, you know, where that doesn't happen, then, you know, quotas may actually be necessary. But what we as women, you know, will and should do is to ensure that we have women who can fill those roles, bring them out. There are more, you know, it's interesting. I mean, on a regular basis now, I come across women in industries who are shining, who are doing so well, who are making a great impact. We need to get these women up there and get them known. That's why WIMBIZ took the stand that if you have, you know, university councils being inaugurated across Nigeria, and none of those councils have any women, you know, they've I mean, we've had vice chancellors who've been women in the past. Why can't, you know, academics, why can't people in, you know, business, in civil society and so on, be put on those governing councils? So we've got to choose to challenge. You know, where affirmative action is not in place, we need to continue to choose, we need to, you know, challenge the situation that we found ourselves in, where people don't even think about it. Societal, cultural, and then just those unconscious biases that, people have against women being in roles. I believe that, sooner rather than later, the necessary legislation should be in place to ensure that there is a firm quota for a certain number of women in government and also in the private sector. It's something that we must do in Nigeria. Thank you, Doctor.
Especially for companies, starting up from companies at least and moving on. Some parts of the world, some companies have found that they have done much better if they have created conditions that allow women to be able to take a break, raise a family, and still come back by making policies that while they are away raising their family from home, they are getting updated on knowledge, development, and all of that. And when they come back, maybe after 5, 6, 7, whatever number of years, they come to positions where they could have been at. Is this a direction that companies should play? I believe it's Google, one of the big tech companies, has just made a major decision around that. Do you have a perspective on this? Where firms have clear policy that ensure that women who may, I know that in the UK, for example, there was a time they were complaining about women doctors, that if you train a woman as a doctor, after a couple of years, she gets married, takes a break from work to go and have children. By the time she's ready to come back, you spend so much money to retrain her. It's almost like going back to medical school, and that is so expensive. But in corporate life, there are companies that are actually creating policies now to ensure that those women who are top players remain in that condition while they're away raising a family, and when they come back, they don't really lose their standing. Are those kinds of things that should be pushed in terms of governance and companies?
Thank you, Prof. I think those policies are already being pushed because of what Bola Adesola said. They make business sense. We see a lot more flexible working arrangements. Even Nigerian companies are adopting that. We see opportunities for women to travel with their children. Many companies now make accommodations for that. And then we're also seeing companies investing in the creches, I think that Folake discussed, where so many Nigerian companies realize that women have to bring their children to work. The interesting thing, though, that you'll note is that the Nigerian policies around maternity leaves are actually more generous than many other countries. The US does not have a maternity leave policy. The Nigerian government mandates the 3 months policy, as well as when you come back, you have a shorter work day. You come in at 10 and leave at 4. And I think that is quite progressive. But what we see in this context is that many SMEs cannot afford to accommodate that. And so I would like to see policies in place where there's a little more support for SMEs to be able to accommodate these policies, because it's quite expensive to say I have a staff who is not working for 3 months. If I have only 5 employees, how will I cushion that? And I think where we need to move to is where countries like Finland has moved to, where they give 1 full year off, but the government actually subsidizes that period so that the company is not bearing that extra cost. So I would like to see some of that in policy. The other policy that I wanted to point out, which I often take WIMBIZ on, and I'm so happy, Ms. Adesola, that WIMBIZ has taken on this issue around the councils, is that in our labor laws, it still lists that women cannot work overnight in manufacturing or in any other sector apart from hospitality and health. And this is a huge, huge barrier to women, especially in manufacturing, where you have night shifts. And I've challenged the government wherever I can on this law. It's from the 60s in the Nigerian labor law. So most multinationals that have 24-hour factory operations cannot have female employees on the shop floor overnight. And you know that most women rise through the ranks in manufacturing from production. And yet you see women stuck in HR or definitely in accounting, which is not bad, but to move into the managing director role, it's often more difficult to come from HR or to come from QC. And so we need to address those labor laws. It should be a woman's choice whether she wants to work overnight. And if a woman can work in a hotel overnight or as a nurse overnight, why can't she work in manufacturing overnight? So I think there's some labor laws that are really limiting the growth and the progress of women in corporate Nigeria, which we urgently have to address. And we can only do this if we work collaboratively. So the corporates, definitely, we see the momentum. SMEs need some support to be able to meet up those standards, but then we need the government policy to incentivize, to protect, and to enable private sector to really close the gender gap.
Mrs. Animumuni, if you could give us your perspective on that same subject or question.
I mean, I think Ndidi has really captured a lot of what's required. The fact is, even within banking, she gave the example of manufacturing, but even within banking, we have some roles where based on gender, it's a bit more challenging perhaps for the women to succeed in those roles. And what you require is an organization that's supportive of the woman to succeed. We have women who are responsible for branches, responsible for ATMs, for example, who over the weekend, we run a 24/7 operation, the ATMs must be loaded, and you find the women sometimes taking their children. Well, we've put things in place to enable and to ensure that the women can still succeed, you know, in whichever role they find themselves. I think it's also important that we look at reporting. I think as the legislation comes to support gender parity, the fact that organizations will be required to report, I think will drive and is a better impetus towards making sure that we achieve this. What we have to report on, increasingly you find that within capital decisions, for example, a number of organizations require you to report gender diversity and inclusion. And we find that that is actually driving very positive behavior. On the whole, I believe that if the statistics that we see, you know, is what is to be believed, it's critical going forward that organizations, civil society, the government all come together to ensure that we drive the right legislation. It's a given. I loved exactly what our president, ICANN president, said about the fact that you don't clap with one hand, you clap with two hands. It's a given that women and men, if allowed to compete equally, will do just as well. And honestly, we're not here to say that give women a chance, not based on merit. It has to be based on merit. So on the whole, my belief is that there's several things that we need to be deliberate and intentional about. And one of that is saying, how do we revisit the legislation that makes sure that this equality we keep talking about, the gender mainstreaming that we keep talking about, is something that happens now. I think we've talked enough. I think we've been at these conferences enough. How do we begin to measure and ensure that in the specific areas, it's important that women are represented? What are those measures that we need to put in place, right from whether it be the National Assembly through all the various arms of just really documenting and measuring? And it's great to begin to see the reports coming out. I mean, McKinsey has done a number of reports, and other Ernst & Young and other institutions have done. We need more data that actually captures what the true picture is in Nigeria, and then we need to begin to address and take each of the areas and tackle each of the areas and report on it individually. I think that will really see us moving to where we want to get to.
Thank you so very much. We're beginning to move towards closing the colloquium section, but we have two more perspectives to take from this table here, and I'll turn next to Mr. Ijewere. Policymakers, executives in positions of public authority. What are the things we could do to socialize them, educate them, and get them into a new consciousness that can facilitate the advance of the common good through a better understanding of the whole issue of gender mainstreaming, you know, inclusion, diversity, whatever nomenclatures we tend to.
Thank you very much. And I think this is a lot, I've learned a lot here today. But let us also remember that it's not easy for a person, male or female, to leave his or her comfort zone. The men may make noises that my mother is a great woman and therefore I have no problem with women taking positions. But in actual fact, if that threatens him, he will find a way of sabotaging it. Therefore, you need to go out there and take it. The example we had was that we had the Society of Women Accountants. They've got to where they've gotten to today because they thought ahead. They formed this association, and they know to get elected to the Council of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, you needed votes. They had block votes. They were a minority in terms of gender, but they had this block called Society of Women Accountants. Men did not have anything of that sort. If you want to get elected, you need to be in the good books of this organization. From that moment, they now realized, it's like what's in Genesis 1, God saw it was good. They saw that the Society of Women Accountants was good. Rather than getting the men elected, they were getting themselves elected. Simple. That's what I would recommend. Now, if women got together and they said to a bank, and they say, we discover that only 10 or 20% of your staff are female, we will get women to stop banking with you unless you lift that up. Do you know the impact that will have? Don't sit down and wait for us men to do it. You go wait, tire. So I would say to you, go grab it. And I think that we are ripe for it now. What's also more interesting is that COVID has taught us a lesson. You don't need to leave your children at home to go to work. You can work at home. Just adjust your home to meet that. And we found that it worked. Companies did not collapse because people didn't go to work. They sat at home, they did their work, and many companies have given up a lot of office spaces because they're encouraging their staff to work at home. It's a new dawn. Let's do the right thing, and I think the women's time has come. Take it up. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so very much. I think that point that has just been made is so important. Let's not take it for granted that because people say nice things that they really, one of my favorite quotes goes back 500 years to Machiavelli. There's nothing is more difficult to bring about than a new order of things. Because those who profit from the old order will do everything to prevent a new order from coming about. But the other part is more interesting. Those who could profit from the new order do not do enough to make it happen. Because man is incredulous in his nature, not wanting to try new things until he has witnessed experience of it. 500 years ago, one man wrote that, and it's still so true. So if we are going to get people who we know are profiting from this disadvantage to all of society by keeping one gender down or out, what are the ways we could be educating them to see their own best interests? How can we be getting the majority who will profit from the new order to value it enough to make the kinds of effort that Sejewere has been suggesting? ICAN President, last word.
Thank you very much. I think a lot has been said, and I key into most of the closing comments that have been made. For me, I believe, and strongly so, we must start from, I don't want to use the word correcting what has not been done right before. We must start from recognizing the fact that the women in Nigeria today, if given equal opportunity, will benefit the country more. I think that's the first thing we need to sell to everybody. Like past President Jewere said, if you are benefiting from a system, it's very difficult for you to willingly give it up. That is natural where human beings is true. But again, if the statistics is showing that when you test women and men and you give them equal opportunities, the output is more productive and beneficial to all of us, then we must begin to gravitate towards clear legislation that will help us to get to where we want to get to. I do not believe that if we leave this thing to leaving people to rise up and recognize and accept what needs to be done, we will get there. Unfortunately, in our own climb, if you don't have laws, things don't happen easily. But once you put those rules and regulations and you are able to monitor them and implement them, you'll get the required results. So for me, I think legislation is very key for us. No level of moral suasion we take us there as fast as we want to. I go back to Rwanda. I'm sure the decision for them to legislate those things they are doing today was born out of the fact that they knew that if they left it to individuals to do it in their own way, it won't work. When we started banking as young people, we had banks that had crèches. So the young women can take their children there. But over time, that policy died a natural death. But if the central bank has said, oh, because you have women working, every bank must invest and make sure that the mothers, when they come from maternity, they can still bring their children, I'm sure that would have been working today. Was it a good policy? Perfect. Will the women gain from it? Fine. Will the children also benefit from it? Fine. Because during break, you go and breastfeed your child. Then you will not be divided. You won't have that divided interest of leaving your job and thinking about what your baby is doing at home with your house help. But when the child is just 2 blocks away, at your lunchtime, you can go and bond with your baby. But that didn't, it didn't say the light. I don't know if there's any bank that is doing it today. Forgive me, I left banking 6 years ago. But before I left, we didn't even do that. So again, I also support the idea that we must also go out there and take this by. But that's women ourselves must also begin to gather momentum and look for every opportunity to deal with this situation. The story of the Society of Women Accountants of Nigeria is a fantastic story, that a model that we will recommend to other professional bodies. Even SWAN, after we put SWAN together, we went outside Nigeria. We helped Ghana, we helped Sierra Leone, we helped Kenya to form their own women accountants, because we believe that there's a lot of value there. As I speak today, on the board of the panel of Accounting Federation Africa, the women wing, where Princess Adeniran was the first female president, is represented there. And I went for a board meeting where they almost denied us that opportunity. If I didn't attend that board meeting, we would not have that seat today. The men just said it was not necessary. Why would the women come? We're all professional accountants. Fortunately, I attended that meeting. 1 hour, we had that debate. Eventually, they gave in. It's okay. Let the women come. If SWAN didn't pick me up, if SWAN didn't give me those opportunities, I wouldn't have had that privilege to go to the African group and make that comment. And today, we have a seat there. So a lot of us women, we also have to help put things together to be able to see that what we are looking for, we're not expecting the men to just bring it to us on our platter of gold. No, we have to go out there and seize the opportunities anytime we have it. Finally, the cultural issue, which will be a tough one, let us call a spade, is a particular part of this country. If you take the Southeast, their perception about women and with what women are expected to do is an issue. Even before now, please let me go back to the religion bit of it. You were not having female as priests. Do we think about that? Yes. And these are things that we have lived with forever. So we also have to go back to those cultural issues and see how we can help impact another. And it's the elitist group like us that will go back, show statistics to convince them that these things will have to happen. I haven't seen a female Oba in all my life, so please forgive me. But the Queen of England is a woman. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you so very much. In just a minute, we're going to go to a documentary that will showcase the lives of the women we are honoring and the place of women in making impact. But I'd just like to ask the honorees, would they like to make a short comment on the subject? Any one of them that desires can. I know that Dr. Aribisala, who's out there in the US, usually has some views on this matter. Yes, some quick comments on this question before we come to you, Bigger.
Okay. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Dr. Pat. Should I come on? Well, I only want to continue with one of the points that was made earlier by distinguished guests and speakers, and that's the issue of women themselves. You know, I saw somebody posted something, you know, take it by force, you know, this Bible passage. But I believe we cannot just sit down as women. I'm not talking of women from the receiving side. There are expectations from us. And I'm sure that is one ingredient that each of these women that have spoken today and those who are being honored have the wisdom of putting in place. And that wisdom is competence is very key. Anywhere we are working, you know, we should remember that competence, professionalism, ethics, and also being bold to an extent, being ready to not too risk averse. So there are certain things that we as women need to put in place and also not be contented to stay in one point. Sometimes you find yourself in a position where what you are doing is not being appreciated. That calls for you to do more. That calls for you to expand your course. And that calls for you to have a voice. Some women, when you are being relegated in your place of work, you lose your voice. And I believe that is the time to keep your voice up. That is the time to place yourself. There has to be a placing in a special space that you are recognized. So I won't add more. And also the mentorship is very key. Sometimes imagine women leaders, they keep quiet when really what they need to do at the particular time is to look for a mentor, somebody who has passed through, somebody who will have empathy, not, pray and pray, fast and fast. But it says faith without work is zero. It is the time to look for somebody to mentor us and ensure. And that is an area that we older women need to work more. The area of matching the younger ones to mentors, ensuring that at any given time in our places of work, we create schemes that enable us to mentor, share experiences, encourage the others, try and join a platform where the younger ones. I would love to see some programs like, on some of our media that make this possible, where many people have access. In our own time, it was difficult to be matched with a mentor, because they are high up and you are just low down there. You admire them in silence. And there was no way of meeting them, saying, this is the problem. How did you get there? How did you cross the glass ceiling? And I believe that's the area we need to work on more. Even our own daughters may stay with us and still may not know anything about us. If we don't attract them, bring them to ourselves, not be too aloof. So I won't say more than that. And I would want one of the important things to come out of this meeting will be having, seeing how women can work together in a way that, we can have various platforms that are accessible. Platforms may be in existence and they may not be accessible to teenagers, because these things are not things that we live over a long. We should start with children from the foundation stage, because some of them don't even desire leadership. It's something not to even desire it. And that was the role that Brownie played in the life of most of us, because some of us from age 4, even in remote places, I grew up in Mina, you know, my father had a dream of a leader, building me to a leader, and made sure I joined Brownie. So we should look at how we bring our children up to, especially whether girls or boys, and make sure when we see them lagging behind, not desiring leadership, we try and understand why and find area of interest. How can we ginger that the leadership, you know, I won't say hunger or thirst. It's not a matter of life and death, but how can we unlock those potentials? And I believe that is an area in which we should look, even as a grandma, and, you know, not to my biological children alone. That's an area I'm working on. How do I unlock the leadership potentials, you know, from the foundation stage of a child, early childhood? And thank you once again for this privilege. And I've enjoyed so far, you know, thank God for technology. It's been a very, very productive day. Thank you.
Develop the culture of empathy towards fellow women, younger girls. We find that in places of work, the girls warm up more easily to their male bosses, whereas to female bosses, for no reason, you find that they're timid. If they have a problem, they would rather go to the male boss and not go to the female boss. This must have started from somewhere. They didn't just go to a workplace and choose that I would be closer to a male boss. So let me appeal to fellow women. Let us make conscious effort. While we are bosses, let us also be mothers to these young girls. Let us be guardians to these young girls. Let us be friends to these young girls. Let us be confidants. Encourage them to talk to you. If they have problems, let them come to you. You direct them. Some of them is for lack of knowing what to do that they go to the male. And if the male is a selfish male, he directs them wrongly. What he would not tell his daughter to do, he tells them to do because he will benefit from it. But if we make it easy for these young girls to come to us, and we not cajole them. I'm sure the women know what I mean. You make them your friends. You tell them what to do. If they're wrong, put them right. But make sure that you are accessible. Let them be able to talk to you. Don't block that road, that empathy channel between you and the girl. And let us also make conscious efforts to pull up our girls. Let us hold their hands, pull them up. let them assure them, let us assure them, there's nothing a girl puts her mind to do that she cannot achieve. And once we keep telling them this, and they watch the way we operate, they will like to be like us. There's no girl that prefers to be a dropout. There is no girl under the sun that prefers to be a failure. There is no girl that would look at a boss, someone like my auntie here, my sister. There's no young girl that will not want to say, when I grow up, I want to be like her. There are many. But where the road is blocked, a girl knocks at her boss's office, female boss. What do you want? Look, I don't have time for that. Have you done your job? Go and do it. Next time that girl will not come, hear her out first. Attend to her problems. If she has problems, she's not likely to excel. If she has things bothering her, she will have some kind of stumbling block to her excelling. So make sure those stumbling blocks are removed and then see what her capabilities are, how you can assist them, how you can make them excel. Because at the end of the day, the glory goes to you. When you see a girl you've mentored, becoming someone in the society, there's some inner pride. There's some pride that you get. I can't explain it. I have felt it so many times. You feel it, and you can't explain it. You cannot explain it. So let us try and be our own and shield our own too. Because the men they try to shield their own. When okay, like in NNPC, for example, when we hold interviews, you find the males amongst the males on the panel saying that young man is a promising young man. And I say, that young girl, she's a promising young girl. And she's a girl that's going to achieve what no man has achieved. Let's give her a chance. And we have many girls like that will come out today and say, but for so-and-so, I won't be where I am. And what did I do? There was no preferential treatment. It was just, come if you have a problem. This is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do. Ensure that you do not entertain the idea of godfatherism. There is no such thing. There's no such thing as, if I'm close to my boss, I will make it. It is your effort, your sleeplessness that will get you there, not the friendship of your boss. Not the friendship of your boss. Do your job. My philosophy in life has always been, I will get there, but don't expect me to come and crawl on my fours in your office and be at your mercy. Do as you wish to me, as long as I will never do that. And I never did it. And I know people who to date are still praying that something, God in his ways will bring me to them wanting something. But God is not like that. God sees your heart and God assists you. God had made sure that I'm not indebted to any boss in NNPC. When you set a trap for me, God will take me through the other routes. I know situations where I had been set up. In fact, if I had gone for that interview, I would not have been in NNPC today. And from nowhere, a letter came saying, you've been appointed MD of such and such a subsidiary. I was shocked. In fact, at first I didn't know it was my Abdurrahman because we were two Abdurrahmans. I went to ask and I was told, are you not Aisha? I said, yes. I said, it's you. Go. You are the new MD of that place. And you know, the miraculous way I rose, I met people in NNPC. I left them there. I was not sent away. I left my track records. And those girls that I left there are watching. And when I was leaving, a lot of the girls were in tears. I didn't limit myself to my directorate. Once you are a lady, you are a female, and you worked in NNPC, I'm at your service. And I think this is the attitude that we women should have, because our children must excel. We must pray for them to excel and do better than we have done. So also these other girls you are meeting in the places of work, they are other people's children. You must wish for them what you wish for your children and leave the blessing to God. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank God Almighty for making today a peaceful day, because you cannot rule anything out in Victoria Island or Ikoyi. It could be something must go today. It could be SARS. Or just name it. But for today being free is because God loves us. I thank those of you who are here, because even though there is electronical transmission and Zoom. What happened? Okay, all right. Even though we are on Zoom, you still need some people. That we are able to have this and have a peaceful day. The sun is shining. We are not rolling our body around ourselves to get in. It is because God loves us. I thank the organizers, and I thank my constituency, ICANN and SWAN. They are always with me, by me, in front, at the back, anything I do. And I don't know what I have done to deserve this, but I thank them sincerely. Breaking the glass roof is not a piece of cake for career women. It is not a piece of cake. We went through a lot of issues when we were growing up in establishments. I remember when I contested the first election to get into ICANN Council, people were saying, you just qualified, you are now going to council. That was my offense. And when I won, not many of them were keen on congratulating me, but they did it just to do, what do you call it? Eye service. But the older ones, like my MD or so, was interested. I will say a lot of patience a lot of perseverance, a lot of hard work, and competence is necessary for you to break the glass roof or ceiling. As far as my own personal experience is concerned, we have heard stories of success for women, professional women breaking ICANN. We formed ourselves into an association, which is Society of Women Accountants in Nigeria, SWAN for short. But that is not all. We didn't form ourselves and then going this way when the men were going that way. Some men know how to make women feel happy and feel big, especially my brother on my right.
Yes, him. I know him.
He will pamper you, and we pamper him back. When he says, he still did it this morning, oh no, women first, or ladies first. And I said, after men. If you give them that respect that they deserve, you will find it a little bit easier than when you want to confront them. They don't like confrontation. And that's why ladies who are short, they have more men running after them. The tall ladies who will look at you and almost at the same level, men don't want them. I'm speaking from experience. So they feel threatened. And the only way to get over it is to ensure that you bring yourself close to them, not in any immoral way, but in a supportive way. That helps a lot to see your progress improved and you getting to where you want to get to. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to advise that those of us, not people like us, there's not much we now want in the system. We have overgrown the system. But we still have real method of ensuring that we mentor. This is the best time for us because we don't have the ambition of staying in the system. We want the system to improve. The saying goes that the what you do yourself is history, but what you set in motion is a legacy. What we are struggling to do now is to ensure that we leave a legacy. We set things in motion that these young ladies can follow the track and improve their lives and the lives of those coming behind them. I'd like to thank you once again for being part of this gathering.
Thank you very much. I'm going to cut through. Now, we have a documentary that is a little long. We have the intro. We'll take the intro, which is like 1 or 2 minutes, and then we will cut the cake, present the plaques. Then we'll begin to play documentary, at which time, because those online will be watching that, all of us who can continue to watch will continue to watch it here. But that track will save us keeping people who need to get away quickly. So let's have the intro. This was actually to have been played at the beginning, that basically tells us who our honorees are. So immediately after the intro, we'll cut the cake. And by the way, this series will continue. We'll have 3 more this year.
Aisha Mata.
And then next year, because it's important to keep this issue on the front burner until we get real change. So I think the next one will be in June or thereabouts. And we'll honor some other remarkable women, including, as I remember, Professor Gomo, who's just retired as Dean of Law at the University of Lagos. And so we have quite a number of really outstanding women that we're going to be honoring in this series.
Profile for Hajia Dr. Aisha Mata Abdurrahman. Hajia Aisha Mata Abdurrahman was born in Zaria, Kaduna State. She is a graduate of Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, with a BA Honours in French and an MPA Public Administration from the Obafemi Awolowo University. Throughout her working career, spanning 3 decades, Aisha has served and worked in various capacities and garnered experience over time in the areas of public administration, banking, and the public sector. Hajia Dr. Aisha Abdurrahman retired as the Group Executive Director, Commercial and Investment Directorate of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, where she supervised the commercial and investment activities for the entire NNPC group, covering retail, trading, shipping, properties, and other ancillary services. She is an administrator par excellence, with many firsts and bests to her name, such as being the first female executive director at the Petroleum Products Marketing Company, PPMC, first female managing director in various key NNPC subsidiaries, and the first and only female GED in the history of NNPC. Hajia Dr. Aisha is a fellow and standing committee chairperson, Women Directors Development Committee of the Institute of Directors, Nigeria. She is also a sitting council member and fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Management, NIM, Africa Business School, Institute of Corporate Administration, and Nigeria Institute of Public Relations. The recognition of her accomplishments has earned her many awards, including Distinguished Women of Nigeria Award, as well as African Women's Leadership Award and International Federation for World Peace Humanitarian Service Award. She was also awarded an honorary doctorate degree in business administration in 2015 from St. Clement's University in the UK. A philanthropist and true patriot, Aisha has founded and chairs the governing board of the Mata Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to the rehabilitation and care for battered women and displaced orphans, issues very close to her heart. Her philosophy to life is, will history index your life under achievement or excuses, under service or selfishness, under harmony or hostility, under generosity or greed? William Arthur Ward. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Hajia Dr. Aisha Mata Abdurrahman.
Profile 4. Dr. Oluremi Adeiton Aribisala, first female Director General of the Raw Material Research and Development Council, RMRDC. Dr. Oluremi Aribisala was born on November 1st, 1947. Though born in southwestern Nigeria, she was raised in Niger State, north-central Nigeria. Her father was a railway staff, while her mother was an auxiliary nurse who later became a trader. From a relatively humble background where moral values were strictly entrenched, Dr. Aribisala was able to rise to the very pinnacle of her career through hard work and sheer resilience. She had her elementary and secondary education in Baptist missionary schools, a bachelor's degree from the prestigious Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria, Kaduna State, and a PhD in microbiology from the University of Lagos. Dr. Aribisala pioneered the establishment of Raw Materials Research and Development Council as its first female Director General and championed local content in Nigeria's manufacturing sector. She is a seasoned researcher for over 2 decades as research and development staff in the Federal Ministries of Agriculture and Rural Development. She participated in developing the nation's strategic policies in science, technology, and industries. Dr. Aribisala is the first female Deputy Executive Secretary, ECOWAS, serving as a regional integration advisor among so many other roles that she played in the regional body. She coordinated the establishment of the African Women Think Tank, AWTT. She is a women empowerment expert, pastor, and youth advisor. She is happily married and blessed with 4 children and 12 grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Oluremi Adeiton Aribisala. Profile for Princess Adenike Adeniro. Princess Adenike Adeniro was born on the 15th of November 1940, government area of Ogun State. Her father was His Royal Highness Oba James Johnson Odukoya, the Oloru of Oru-Ijebu, 1912 to 1954, and her mother was Olori Sabina Agbegbe Odukoya, also of Oru-Ijebu. In August 1963, she married her fiancé, Mr. Adetola Adeniro, in Nigeria, and later joined him in the United Kingdom in April 1964. She has been married for 67 years, and the marriage has been blessed with successful children. She attended the Catford College of Commerce, Bromley, London, and Staffordshire College of Commerce, Birmingham, and passed the final examination of the Association of Certified and Corporate Accountants, ACCA, in December 1970. She returned to Nigeria in April 1971 and commenced her working career with the Cooperative Bank of Nigeria as an accountant, and she rose to the bank's chief accountant in April 1983. Between 1987 and 1989, she worked at Nigel Merchant Bank as a general manager, after which she left to set up her own company, Dominion Trust Limited. The company thrived and later became a group of companies consisting of Dominion Trust Limited, a member of the Nigeria Stock Exchange; Dominion Finance Limited, certified by the CBN; DTL Venture Limited, and Nikal Nigeria Limited. She nursed and chaired the companies for 30 years before she voluntarily retired to a private life. Professionally, she served in the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICAN, as a member and then as chairman of committees. And in June 1997, she was elected the first female president of the Institute from 1997 to 1998. In 1998, she was elected the first president of the International Federation of Women Accountants, IFWA, Africa region, and served until 2002. Also in 1998, she was elected the first female president of the Association of Accounting Bodies of West Africa, ACBWA. In 2020, she became the chairman of ICAN Body of Past Presidents. She was a foundation member of the Governing Council of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers, 1994 to 1998. She is a member of the Institute of Directors, IOD, and the Nigeria Institute of Management, NIM. She co-established the Society of Women Accountants of Nigeria, SWAN, in 1977 to 1978. Princess Adenike Adeniran at various times served both in Ogun State and the federal government at various capacities. These include Ogun State Investment Corporation, member Subcommittee of Technical Committee on Privatization and Commercialization, member Board of Family Economic Advancement Program, member National Economic Intelligence Agency from 1999 to 2007, Security and Exchange Commission Committee on Corporation Governance. Princess Adenike Adeniran is truly an accomplished chartered accountant. She is very resourceful, diligent, meticulous, upright, and highly principled. She is a consummate professional and full of wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Princess Adenike Adeniran.
That would be too long to take now. So we'll just go to the next item here, which is to cut this cake in their honor. And then if they want 1 more minute word in response, if they desire. And then after that, we'll play the full documentary. Okay, so I would like to invite Dr. Boniface Chizie to be on standby to pop some champagne for us to drink to the health of these remarkable women. And meanwhile, I would like to invite us on this side of the table and invite Erelu to please come and preside over the cutting of our cake in their honor. Just 1 minute, it will take 1 minute. Yes, we'll go to the cake. Stand. Get this out of the way. Yes. Oh, okay. Hey, Johnny, I'm at a program. I'll call you right back. Can you hear me? Please, I give that to you. Just direct us as you wish. In the middle, okay. Okay, you.
The awardees
the chairman of the organization that's awarding our women, ladies and gentlemen, and of course the press. Well, I have to make a little speech because these three ladies are very special ladies to me. And despite the COVID scare, you can see I'm in all my grand ashoke, I'm here just to witness this special occasion because I've been part of the journeys of these beautiful ladies. I used to be regular guest and host actually to Swan members for many years. And I can attest today to what women have been going through. I've been in the open space, in the public sphere for well over 50 years, and I've seen it all. And thank so I thank Professor Pat for this platform to highlight achievements of women and what we should be doing. 30% affirmation, whatever, it's nothing. We have brilliant women. If you want us to fill 60% of public spaces and appointments and other, we can do it with ease. So thank you so very much for this opportunity. The business at hand. Wow, it's the wonderful Moët de Chandon et Rosé. Well, ladies' champagne. So thank you so much. And with greatest of pleasure and confirmation that these women are achievers and they deserve whatever honor that can be bestowed upon them. It's a pity Dr. Aribisala is not here, but she knows that I mean well and I wish her well, and I've always been rooting for her also. Ajia is a special friend, and of course my auntie, the princess, my royal sister, she's a great achiever. So to the glory of God, I shall ask everybody to place your hands on the knives of the cake. Well, okay, COVID, maybe just get close, you know. But to the glory of God, we will cut this beautiful cake in thanksgiving to the opportunities that have been bestowed on these beautiful ladies, making them beacon of light for other aspiring women to achieve greatly in his honor and the glory of our country. 1, 2, I'm only counting to 3, so no wasting time. 1, 2, and 3. Congratulations. I wish you all the best. And thank you, Prof. Congratulations. Oh, dear, well, the bubbly. Well, I don't know if we have singers amongst us. Pour champagne.
Just face another direction. Sometimes we are afraid of it coming towards them.
Careful now. Remove the paper first. He does not know it's a dangerous weapon. He doesn't know it's going to come up.
No, it's okay.
It's coming up.
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. It's a dangerous weapon. Voila.
You want help? Ah! But they are jolly good fellas.
But they are jolly good
fellas.
For they are a jolly good fellow, and so say all of us, hooray! And so say all of us, hooray! For they are all of us, for they are jolly good fellows, for they are jolly good fellows,
for they are jolly good fellows. And so say all of us. Congratulations. Nike, congratulations. Thank you. That's the princess. Take the table for you. Thank you.
Make you pop champagne. Pop, 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 pop. Make you pop champagne. I say, hold the baby when I did pop champagne. Hold the baby when I did pop champagne. Because every time when I enter the club, I did pop champagne. And when the ladies see me, they pop it, they bust their brain. I make it rain, oh, they go insane, oh. Make them forget the sorrows and step to jolly while I did pop, pop, pop.
This is an award of excellence, and it's being presented to Princess Adenike Adeniran, FCA. An award of excellence to an exceptional leader in recognition of your outstanding contributions and legacy as a pioneer leader in the accounting and stockbroking sectors of the economy, presented at the 51st CVL Leader Without Title Leadership Tribute Colloquium in your honor on this day, Thursday, April 17th, 2021. Congratulations.
Thank you very much indeed.
We'll invite Mrs. Onome Joy Dewi to kindly present the award to Ajia Aisha Abdurrahman.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. This again is an award of excellence to an exceptional, I want to put the word female leader, in recognition of your outstanding contributions and legacy as a pioneer leader in the oil and gas sectors of the Nigerian economy. Presented on this 51st CVL Leader Without Title Leadership Tribute Colloquium in honor of Hajia Dr. Aisha Abdurrahman on this Thursday, April 15th, 2021. Please, can we put our hands together to celebrate a leader of our time? Congratulations, ma. Hearty congratulations.
Thank you very much, CVL, Professor Patutomi. I have put on your shoulders, formally and informally, the task of straightening this country that is wobbling. I know for now, everybody knows you're hitting your head against the wall, trying to make Nigeria a better place for our children and our children's children. Nobody's acknowledging it aloud, but they all know. And someday it will be acknowledged. And someday your name shall be written in gold. Let's give him a round of applause, please.
Well, thank you all so very much.
We have a rep for Dr. Ibisala.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Ibisala's representative that's physically present will receive her own plaque. Okay, Mrs. Laurentia. Okay, please come right up. Let me present this myself. This is a presentation, an award of excellence to an exceptional leader in recognition of your outstanding contributions and legacy as a pioneer leader in the raw materials and manufacturing sectors of the economy. This is presented at the 51st CVL Leader Without Title Leadership Tribute Colloquium in honor of Dr. Oluremi Aribisala, today, Thursday, April 15th, 2021. Congratulations, please. She can hear us. Congratulations. Where you are. Lovely. Thank you. Everybody. Okay, together. All right. We're going to rise, eh? Just the whole table just standing. Sorry, ma. You go hold the... So we know who is there for 1 minute. Okay, thank you. Congratulations. Now, we will begin to play the main documentary, but the event formal is closed. So we can continue watching the documentary. And we thank you all so much. for this very important colloquium that we have had in honor of these three outstanding women. Like we said, we're going to continue this series on our women for the next year. And so I think the next one will be in June. And we thank them for having accomplished so much that makes it possible for us to showcase them and make them examples to the next generation. Thank you all. God bless. Congratulations. Thank you. I guess I can drink this up.
I grew up between Zaria and Kaduna. I went to school in Kaduna Primary School, a Catholic primary school. There was no issue of hijab. I went to secondary school, a Catholic secondary school. All the children dressed exactly the same and did exactly the same things. And when I finished, I wasn't too sure of what I wanted to do. Played around a bit, sang because I had a good voice. I went off, trained my voice, came back, went to some teachers' college. I did drama, singing, music, psychology. At the end of the day, I settled down to reading French. I finished, I got into university. After the first year, depending on how well you do, you're expected to go to France and spend a year abroad. I went off to France, spent the 1 year, a little bit over 1 year, and then we came back and I completed my studies. During my youth corps, I was posted to Oyo State. I got married. And after my youth corps, by the time I finished my youth corps, I was expecting my first baby. I finished, then taught in Ife. I taught in Ife. I taught briefly in the university, but it was boring. We leave staff quarters to the campus, from campus to staff quarters. So I decided to go out. So I went to the teaching hospital, which was on the way to Elisha. I contributed my little quota, but I feel fulfilled in the sense that, one, I was not found wanted. And then I was having the only GBT that was not invited for questioning. To date, I don't know the office of EFCC in Abuja. And I was happy. I came out without anything. I didn't even have a house. I was struggling to pay my rent. When my rent is almost due, I don't sleep well. But I thank God. I was even offered to be GMD. But at that time, I had just had a major surgery. And I was trying to heal. And the surgeons had said I should avoid sitting for long hours.